On today's show, we'll be talking about Project Avary, which I'm really excited to talk about this organization. As for me, I haven't heard of it before, so it's really interesting to have this opportunity, have you guys here in person, and also Laila, who is on Zoom. But to help, this is going to help us learn more about the organization. And we have Maggie Urube. Is that how you're going to? Okay. And she's a program manager. We also have Laila, who's on Zoom, and we have the camp director from Project Avary. Do you guys, Eric, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Maggie, and I am currently the program manager at Project Avary, and I'm the lead coordinator for Avary Day.
Yes, I'm Eric Almeida. I am a program manager as well, but also the camp director and alumni of Project Avary.
Great. And then Laila, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Laila, and I'm an associate counselor for Project Avary.
Awesome.
Nice. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves, and we're really excited to learn more about this organization. Before we start a topic, I wanted to do an icebreaker question. So what is something that you guys are looking forward this summer? You can start if you want.
I'm definitely looking forward to summer camp. That's probably like the bee's knees of our organization. We get to see all of our kids during the summer and just spend quality time and create great connecting, and definitely the break after summer camp. That's what I'm definitely looking forward to. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I was gonna say like exactly the same thing. Summer camp is like our big event at the end of the year, the end of the school year. So I'm always like looking forward to that. But then also like that break after, just to get some time to like unwind before we get back into the grind of just recruiting more kids. So.
And Laila.
My favorite, looking forward to summer. I'm a university college student, so just going back home and getting to be in my hometown, and definitely camp because, like Maggie and Eric were saying, it's a big, like end of the year camp, kind of like what the kids most look forward to. So it's also what I most look forward to and always have growing up in Avary. So it'll be exciting and fun.
Nice. So now we can jump into more about what is the organization. So if one of you guys want to answer, who started this organization, and do they have any personal experience having a parent who'd been incarcerated?
Yeah, I could talk about that. So it was originally started in 1999 by a man named Danny Rifkin and also the chaplain at San Quentin. I'm not sure if they have a direct impact, but what was happening was Danny Rifkin was the road manager for the Grateful Dead, and they were going and doing concerts in San Quentin.
What is that?
Wow.
The Grateful Dead is like
a band.
It's a band. It was like a rock band in like 80s, or
60s,
that,
I think.
60s, 70s.
They're like very psychedelic rock type of music. Yeah.
So, they're a huge band. He was the road manager, and they were doing shows in San Quentin. And they're realizing, the chaplain also was realizing that kids were coming every single weekend through the summers. They were spending their time there visiting. So they really wanted to create something for those kids to have an outlet other than just visitation rooms. So that's where Project Avary, the idea, was created, and it started off as a summer camp and just kind of blossomed from that point.
And it's been open since 99, so that's almost as old as I am, because I was born in 99. So that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. That's a really interesting story, because like I said before, or how Annalie mentioned, I'm not very familiar with Project Avary. I didn't know, but you guys are located actually nearby San Rafael High School, Salvation Army. What's the exact address?
We're at 29 Mary Street, San Rafael.
Awesome. So that's so cool that you guys are located right next to a high school.
Yeah.
That could be pretty helpful, yeah.
So what resources do you guys offer for these children?
Yeah, so aside from our monthly retreats and summer camps, we have one-on-one mentoring. So we pair our youth up with a mentor from the local community, and they have about 2 visits a month, and then just constant interaction and connection after that. And we have our online group mentoring that Eric runs online, and that's we have it about every 6 weeks, and it is an hour Zoom session. It's an hour long, and the kids can come report in on their computers. We play games. games, we have real talk, and we also talk about our 3 agreements, which is like kindness, care, compassion, staying together, one mic, and the kids just really become inspired and build a community in that container. We love it a lot. Yeah.
And what do you guys do in that 2-month check-in?
On the 6 weeks?
The one that you mentioned recently about the 2 months.
The online Zoom. So the online group mentoring.
Yeah, so it happens actually 4 times a year. So kids could do it, as many times as they want. We obviously want to give them a break too. But normally we meet for those 1 hour after school hours each week. And we play a lot of games, have a lot of fun. It's really just a way for them to be able to connect to a bigger community of kids and also adults that have this common bond of having that shared experience, because we know that, a lot of these kids feel alone in their experience, not knowing other people or not being able to kind of speak about what it's like having a parent or a loved one in prison. So just giving them that outlet. And we have kids that join us and staff that join us from all across the country. We even have somebody in there right now that's in Austria, which is crazy. She joins in and it's like 2:30 in the morning, but she's just thugging it out and hanging out with us and just having a good time. So it's great to see that it has that, big of an impact for her to even join at that time.
Yeah, there's kids who will join the online groups. It's 9 p.m. in their areas. Yeah. Wow. And they'll still join. Yeah. It's incredible. And
international.
They come back. Yeah. And they come back and become junior leaders and associate counselors in the online space.
Cool.
Yeah. It's really nice.
Wow. It really shows how there's a lot of passionate people who love the service that you guys are offering. So it's really nice.
Sure.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I also wanted to ask. So, what's the application process like? So how is a youth able to sign up and be a part of the resources you guys offer?
Yeah. So we have a referral form that we have on our website, and that youth can self-referral as well, and so they can submit, and then it goes directly to one of us, and then a case manager calls and asks our screening questions. The only really requirements that have to be between the ages of 8 to 18 and have a caregiver or loved one that's been incarcerated or in jail at any point or currently. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they don't even have to be currently incarcerated. It could have been someone who was formerly.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Oh, okay, that's good to know.
I did not know that. But I think I wanted to share also that for me, I was actually one of those kids who had a parent incarcerated. And I remember really clearly that it was very weird to tell my friends about it. Because all you hear about people in jail is not so good stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to see this opportunity for kids to go and get these resources. But is there anything besides these mentors that is one-on-one? Do you guys have any other offerings that you guys do?
So first off, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
We understand how difficult that is, right, to disclose something so personal. And that's really the reason why we do this work, right, to allow community to identify in these spaces, right? So we offer the one-on-one mentoring. We offer the online support groups, the monthly retreats, and the summer camps. That's the main focus of our work. And that's what the services that we provide to our youth.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I also wanted to mention, with youth who do have incarcerated parents, do you support them in talking to their parents too, or support them in that, or how personal do you guys get with the youth? This is my question. Yeah.
So obviously that can be kind of a tricky thing too, because sometimes they don't want that communication, right? There's been kind of a break in their relationship. So we try to tread lightly with that.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing that we help a youth do is become more comfortable with their situation, become more comfortable with the experience, and then also get to hear other kids and other people share what their experiences like. I know just from being in many fire circles, we call them fire circles, and hearing kids sharing, each year their story changes, right? They become more and more mature, or they start to talk to their caregiver a little bit more, or their parent a little bit more. And it just changes throughout their life. And I think what we provide and how we help them is becoming more comfortable with their experience. And then they become more understanding too, and more compassionate. They start to just take on these traits to where they either can accept what their situation is and have those conversations, or let go and just not have to have those conversations. It kind of just depends on each child, really.
Gotcha.
And what was one of the toughest moments you guys had working in Project Avary?
If you guys mind sharing.
Yeah, if you mind sharing.
When I first started as an online counselor. And that was really my first time sharing about my personal experiences, having both my parents incarcerated. And so I would go to groups, and there would be junior counselors and junior leaders who would share before me, and I wouldn't be able to share anymore just because of the strength of their shares and the impact and just how they were able to just fully express themselves. I was always just so floored and in awe and in admiration of them that I would just get quiet and be like, okay, I really need to let this sit in. So I think not that it was the toughest part, but I think it was just the most humbling part, right? It's like how powerful Avary has been for these youth to allow them to express themselves in such an incredible way, that I think is the most powerful, and that's why I've stayed in Avary, right? Because I believe in empowering them to share their stories, and it's a beautiful way that they've come to do that.
Yeah, I think for me, since I have been like in the program for so long, and Laila as well has been, here for a very long time, it's like it becomes your family, right? Like, people for 10 plus years, and they become, an attachment of you in a way. And then sometimes, life happens and you lose people. We've unfortunately lost a lot of people in the program to, many different reasons. So it's hard to deal with that, because I think loss in any ways is always tough. But when you become so close with somebody, like as we do, because we're so open and vulnerable in some of these spaces, that loss kind of like hits really, really close to home. So I think that's always been like my biggest issue, is just, it's part of life, but it sucks. It really does suck, especially if they're young too. It's like it's a life lost, really young. So it's always been tough.
And what's like, since you guys already said one of your tough experience, what's like your favorite experience here in Project Avary?
I guess like a big moment, or like a moment that sticks out to you since you've been working there.
Man, I don't know. It's tough to say, because I feel like every single like moment in memory is like that much more important. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. Like, I just cherish like every little retreat, every camp. I always like bring home a memory from those experiences that just stick with me.
How about Laila? Laila. Oh, sorry, Laila. Oh, yeah, keep messing up your name. We're so sorry. Laila, did you want to share anything regarding that?
Yeah. So, in terms of my hardest, I guess, moment with Avary, I feel like it's probably like one of the hardest moments, but also one of the easiest moments. So I've been a part of Avary since I was 7, and I'm going to be 20 in like 3 months. So, I've been at Avary for literally my whole life, to be honest. And I think just one of my hardest but yet easiest moments was like stepping into a leadership position in Avary. Of course, the whole point of the program is for children to kind of come full circle and like take help and take resources from, the Avary staff and the older Avary participants, but then also grow up to, if they would like become counselors and junior leaders and junior counselors or associate counselors, and to sort of give back the help and the resources and the support that they received when they were young. So I feel like my, again, hardest but easiest part was stepping into that leadership role, and just being what those like associate counselors and the counselors were for me when I was younger, and turning myself around to be like them. I feel like it was hard because I felt like I had some big shoes to fill. Avary was definitely like one of the biggest parts of my life growing up, and even like now, just getting through, teenage years and adulthood and college, and having a support by me, of course, support with parental incarceration, the trauma and some of the things that you endured never go away. And sometimes they continue to like happen, more and more stuff will always come up. And so, but I feel like it was also the easiest because it's something I wanted to do, and it was something I was passionate about doing and that I always want to continue to do. So that definitely made it easier to just have reassurance from everybody around me, like the shoes are big to fill, but you're filling them just fine. So.
And you mentioned about junior counselors, and I was wondering, what do you guys do in that position?
Yeah. So a junior counselor, so kind of the ranking would be a Project Avary youth. So that's the age range that Maggie and Eric were talking about, of like 8 to well, we support children primarily like in that 8 to 18 range. But around, I believe, 13 is when we usually go through a rite of passage. Before pre-COVID, so before COVID, our rite of passage was a backpacking trip. And so I was on a week-long backpacking trip, kind of to, face your own struggles, face yourself. The idea is kind of like you have to face struggles to help other people go through theirs. And of course, with the struggle of parental or familial incarceration, there's always that struggle right there. But kind of getting to connect with yourself. And then once you do your rite of passage, then you move on to become a junior counselor. And it's kind of like it's a step up from a youth, but it's sort of in the mid-range of like associate counselor and counselor, because you're still learning to be in that leadership potential, and you're really honing your potential and sort of cultivating it into the appropriate space, I guess you can say. And then there's an associate counselor, which really is just a reflection and an extension of a lead counselor. You've honed that strength and that perseverance that you have and that passion, and you've really stepped it up to be a leader and be a strong one. You're able to bond with the youth. You're able to, empathize and have compassion. You're able to, just connect with them on a different level, even when times get hard. I wouldn't say we necessarily have to like discipline our children, but of course, everybody has their moment where sometimes they need to take a step back.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then of course there's a counselor. So at camp, I'm sure everybody's, familiar with like the counselor role at, summer camps and camps in general, just being that leader to, keep us on track, keep us in schedule, be someone that not only the youth can go to, but also the associate counselors and the junior counselors, because we're all still learning, even the lead counselors. So
yeah. Thank you for sharing. Actually, speaking of the camp, could you give us more details about that? I don't think we actually delved into that yet. Yeah. So Camp Avary, right? What I know that's like one of the things you guys are known for the most. So I'd love to learn more about. Yeah.
So we started off as just a camp,
right?
So that's always kind of been like our star basically, and I think that's what all the kids they sign up for that summer camp. Especially it's like for parents too. It's a time of respite. They get a week long, maybe even 2 weeks long of being able to have free childcare. Which I think any parent would love to have. So for the parent, it's a time for them to have some of their own space too. But for the kids, it's a chance to be a kid, right? Like to disconnect from cell phones, get out of the city, eat really good food, have campfires, and then just be able to build community and friendships and relationships that are positive and, that are healing. So we do a lot of like fun activities. We do things like surfing, which is like mainly our big outing, community outing. We have a lot of like resources where we do things like drumming, art classes, poetry, archery. We're trying to bring a drama and improv group this summer.
Awesome.
It's changed throughout the years. We've always had like resources, but COVID changed a lot.
Right.
So, post COVID, I guess you could say we're bringing back a lot of those things that kids really and adults really remembered from those camp experiences. So bringing those things back, the resources and all of that has been really, really great and a fun experience. It feels more like camp now, than ever. So it's nice to have all of that.
And just to clarify, this is only for youth who are currently in the Avary organization, right? Or
yes.
is it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And we are looking for new youth. So if youth who are impacted by parental incarceration or family detention, you're more than welcome to apply.
Okay.
We're looking to have the open spaces for summer camp.
Always.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. And is there a separate application for that, or is it the same application same application.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
I like you mentioned it was free, right?
Yeah.
That's really nice because some people cannot afford, summer camp and
Sure.
these resources
Absolutely.
are really helpful for those youth who are going through a hard situation. At least for me, I remember it was 2 parents, but since one parent is like in jail, like one parent has to support all the children. So it is a tough time. So it's really nice to have this opportunity that's free. And I was also wanted to going back to the junior counselors. So there's like different groups leaders. Is that what I'm understanding from the summer camp that like does different group work in the camps? Or how do you guys how do you guys do your project with or what's your agenda basically for your camps?
So the camps mainly are, that's like the big bang, basically. It's like everyone's done retreats. They've seen some friends here and there throughout the months. They've been on the online groups. But then the camp, we have a week long with these kids. So we're just really like focused on building that community and just strengthening that community. But it's a great moment for those JCs, the junior counselors and associate counselors, and our teen leaders to step into their leadership. Since we are a leadership development program, it gives them more opportunity to learn how to work with these kids. And it is job training, so they are learning how to work with kids. They're learning kitchen skills because we all cook together. They learn, things like drumming and art classes. So really tapping into their creativity and leadership skills. So our main agenda, of course, is, community and things like that, but also giving kids a different outlook and giving them different experiences. I know like a lot of our kids that have grown throughout the program, like Laila herself too, have, pursued careers and things in child therapy or even police officers and things like that to really give back to the communities that they come from, which is awesome. I think that's like the main goal that we've always focused towards, is breaking those cycles of incarceration and giving them an opportunity to give back to the communities as well.
Yeah, it turns into an absolute like full circle moment
for sure
for your youth. Absolutely, yeah. That's awesome.
And I heard, and we've talked about it before the show, but you were saying that you have other projects besides the summer that you are working on.
Like Avary Day.
Like Avary Day.
Yes. So we do have Avary Day. So Avary Day is a new project that we have with Project Avary, and those are our community events. So Avary Day is really our space to showcase what we offer as Project Avary. So we have the drum workshops, we have nature workshops, we're going to have like a water, a paint pour tutorial, and this is all our Avary staff. So all our Avary counselors that are going to be at our retreats and our summer camp will be present at Avary Day. And this is really what we want to give to the communities, to showcase them that we're here, we're available as a resource. This is what we offer and how we offer it, right? And so that's really what Avary Day is about, just to showcase the fun, the magic, the spirit, the connection that we offer.
Nice. When you were mentioning this, it came up to my head. So you know how you guys have mentors and stuff like that. Do they request for that meetup? The children?
So our program, we have like a pool of mentors, right? That we select from, and we match them with our youth. So if our youth is interested in, going into public defense, or if they're interested in going into probation, if they're interested in going into psychology, we do our best to cater to those efforts and match them with somebody who's doing community work, who's done community work for a long time, right? Who's been in a public defense office. We make our best efforts to match them with somebody like that.
Okay. And then if they want to talk to that mentor, they contact them.
Yeah. So the mentor knows to contact the youth about twice a month, and then they meet up and have all these outings. Yeah.
Okay. And did you guys mention the date of Avary Day?
Oh, yeah. So Avary Day is April 22nd. So not this Saturday, but next. It's going to be next to Pickleweed Park at Albert J. Boto Community Center. And it's Centro. And it's from 2 to 6. So even if you're not impacted, even if you just want to be in community, everyone's more than welcome to attend. There's going to be a ton of free food, free giveaways. It's just going to be a bunch of fun. And we'll have a photo booth too.
Oh, the photo booth. Awesome. And so do you know if there's going to be any other organizations there to like do outreach stuff, or is it just purely Avary?
It'll be Avary.
Okay, purely Avary. Awesome. So we'll see you guys there.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
That's really cool. So we're gonna take a break from this topic, and we'll be playing Isma Laura Walking Stars, and we'll be right back.
This society try to crush my spirit, but my chicano so don't fall. I'm 100 with it. Mi gente dice al 100, puro pa' adelante, pa' atrás a más que ese hueco en vivo ya verás. Vamos, vamos, pa' adelante. Vamos, vamos, pa' adelante. Vamos, vamos, pa' adelante. Vamos, vamos, yeah. So who's the victor? You Roman silver, the 30 coins of Judas. I matched their gold, abundance of wealth with them we've never told. I'm the mind alliance, youngest defiance, storm of stars, and all the science. Duality the serpent, don't misinterpret. I'm fine wisdom, age in the temple of the serpent. I'm the flaminess of what chorus poems, wisdom that hits the soul. Nobility, we slip to these hard to fight every day. We born to prove victory, not to feign decay. I'm putting for chop princess, anything on her horse, ready for war. We don't die, we regenerate. Victory, our fate. On a cool breeze, I move with ease. My intellect stays strapped. I embrace my heritage. The brown, white, and the black. I got my mind on my studies, and my studies on my mind. Ready to hit back with facts. Blackjack. So what's the meaning? Historical victory from the beginning.
Hello, welcome back. We hope you guys enjoy that music from Ismael Lara, which is called Walking Stars. We have some announcements. So there's Listos Californias is the state of California's emergency preparedness campaign. Listos mean ready in Spanish, so you can find 5 easy steps to prepare for any natural disasters at their website. You can text Listo CA, which is LISTOSCA, to 72345. Again, 72345, to receive tips in English or Spanish on how to prepare for natural disasters. You'll receive 1 tip per day at the time of your choice over the course of 1 week. So if you want any tips of natural disasters, you can text them.
And then on April 23rd, so I'm going to say it one more time. So Avary Day on April 22nd from 2 to 6 p.m. Will be held at the Albert J. Borough Community Center next to Pickleweed Park. That's where we had Day of the Dead, our Day of the Dead event. Nice. Have you guys been to the Day of the Dead event?
Yeah, I did a Sugar Skulls workshop this past one.
Yeah, so we're the organization that sets that whole thing up. So that's so we're pretty familiar with that community center. So yeah, we're really excited for Avary Day. It's again awesome. It's a free community event. Yes. Games, free food, free giveaways, photo booth.
Yes.
It should be a really great time. And then also the next day, Children for Change is also having their event, their outreach event. So we will be there actually tabling. MCM will be there. So TAY, PFS, all of our different MCM programs will be there from 10:30 to 12, I believe. And that's on April 23rd. So yeah, so lots of stuff going on that next weekend.
Busy weekend.
Yeah, busy weekend, but we hope to see some of y'all there. And yeah, that's kind of all the announcements we have for now, though. And I wanted to move on to our next topic, which was, we already kind of leaned towards this already, but I wanted to talk more about, you know, our own personal experiences with incarceration, or with why you guys do the work that you guys do. And I just want to start things off by prefacing that I never had a parent, like any of my parents incarcerated, but I had a brother who was incarcerated for a really long time. So my story is that my brother, he immigrated here to the United States with my mom when he was 7 years old. And then he got involved with gang activity here back in the 90s. And unfortunately, you know, that put him down a kind of downward spiral. And, you know, growing up, I didn't really understand why, you know, cops would come to my house or come check on him or like see things. Like as a kid, I didn't understand seeing like cops all the time. And then over time, you know, he would get, you know, he'd get locked up, and like every time we'd get scared that my brother, you know, would get, because, you know, he didn't have any papers, right? He immigrated here. So, you know, we were always worried that they would, you know, call ICE on us or anything. And police, and they still do this to this day. SRPD still does this to this day. It still threaten people with calling ICE, especially on Latino families. I know that's super common. And, ICE raids have always been a thing here, always been a thing. So that's kind of where my, I guess, dislike for the police department has kind of stemmed from, is just seeing, you again, the abuse that my brother had to take from the police. And like you guys were saying, trauma. it goes back so far, right? Like as a kid, seeing those things happen in front of your eyes and not fully understanding it until you really develop, right? Then you're like, wow, that was really messed up. Like, that's horrible. Like, I didn't have a voice in any of that because I was just a kid. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So, yeah. And then, unfortunately, my brother did end up getting deported. And, when he got deported over in Mexico, we didn't live in the best area in Mexico either. So he got into trouble there. And then, unfortunately, he ended up passing away in Mexico. So, it was a really tough loss. And it's a loss, again, that I carry. And it's what keeps me, really respect. That's why, again, I have respect for people who deal with incarcerated parents or deal with youth who have to deal with this justice system, right? It's a very, very tough system for a young person to navigate. So again, I have nothing but respect for organizations like you guys, as well as people who work with probation officers, all that stuff. It's very important to have here in Marin. So
for sure. Thank you.
I would agree with Javier. The police really get involved with people who are immigrants. The person, one of my parents, they were in jail because of domestic abuse, but because my parent didn't have papers, they got deported. So it was just it just became worse and worse after that. But let's move on to why you guys wanted to be in this organization, and if you guys are comfortable sharing that.
Yeah, totally. So for myself, again, both my parents were incarcerated when I was little. My dad was incarcerated first, and similar to that, similar to Javier, I was waiting after school one day, right? And it was getting later and later after school, and I was that last kid at pickup, and a police officer came up and was like, "Hey, are you Maggie?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Maggie." And he just kind of picked me up from the curb and took me into the back of the car, right? No explanation, not telling me, right? And so that was my first interaction with knowing that my dad was getting incarcerated, right? And then about a year after, my mom was getting into trouble too. And so she was incarcerated. And so both my parents were incarcerated when I was about 6 and 7. And then I went to live with family. And then they were inside for a few years. And then after, when they were released, they were both deported. So that was my experience as a child, having my parents incarcerated. And so, of course, you grow up with a lot of anger. You grow up feeling a lot of shame, a lot of stigma, because people, especially in Latino communities, right? No hables de eso. You know what I mean? Eso ya no pasó, ya estás en otro lugar, you're not going through that anymore. Ya no está pasando eso, right? But internally, you're still going through it, right? And so I really struggled as a kid. I struggled with my emotions. I struggled not being heard. Like Javier said, I didn't have a voice to express myself. I wasn't given that voice. And so when I like to say Project Avary found me, so when Project Avary found me, I had never experienced anything like this, a space where people were able to share openly about their common bond of having your parents incarcerated, sharing that it's okay, right? That just because you come from this background doesn't mean that you're a bad person or you're a bad kid or that you're going to make the bad decisions. And so that's really what informed me to come to Project Avary and want to be a part of them, because they give hope. They give hope. They inspire our youth. We inspire our youth. We give hope to our youth. And we're also real-time examples, right, of having gone through this journey, right, of adversity and hardship and struggle, of coming forward and maybe taking 2 steps back, right, and constant struggle. And they see us in real time, being able to heal ourselves, being able to have these tough conversations, being able to support them in resolving conflicts and things like that. And so I think that's really why I'm here with Avary, is because they give us the space to work against those hardships and those internal traumas, right? And those internal things that stay stuck for so long. They help you unstick them.
Exactly.
And make space. They help you release all that and make space for new, right? New habits, new conversations, new ways of being, and they show you a new path of how to move forward.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
I think my story is pretty similar to my dad and my mom were both incarcerated. My dad first, of course. It's my stepdad, but he's, been my father pretty much my whole life, actually my whole life. So, they were both, heavy in the drug game and everything. And when my dad got arrested, all of the money went with him, So it put us in a really tough situation. And my mom took things into her own hand and tried to keep things going. And she was also arrested for trafficking. And that put our family obviously in a very tough situation, right? So my sisters were taking care of me, my grandma, and just kind of getting like tossed around because my sisters were still pretty young, still like, late teens, early teens. So they obviously weren't ready to take care of, their little brother. So yeah, it was really tough. And, just that lifestyle of like having, those kind of parents or just people around in general, police, was always around the house, different raids, all these kind of things. So always had like a negative outlook on them because, they're taking my parents away or they're coming in and trashing our house and leaving, and just really disrespectful. So it's always kind of like just been a tough experience with that. But, and as Maggie says, like, she feels like Avary found her. I mean, Avary literally did find me too. I was 8 years old and, ironically, they came into my school and did classroom presentations just like I do now to, new youth. And I signed up. And from that day on, it's just been such a big part of my life. And, growing up in the program, I've seen what it's been able to do for me just as, as a human and as a young growing man, like being able to identify with what emotions I was feeling and what I was going through at such a young age. It really helped me deal with a lot of those traumas and things that I was experiencing. So it made me, like Laila said, want to be able to fill those shoes of the counselors that I had when I was growing up. So, that's just been my story ever since. I'm still trying to fill those shoes and hoping that, these younger generations are looking at me in the same way to take my job, because I can't do this forever either. So
I want them to take my job. I tell them, I'm like, wait till you're a counselor. Wait, just wait till you're a counselor. I want you to come and take my job in 10 years, please.
Exactly.
So we do tell them that.
Yeah.
That's awesome that you guys encourage that. Because again, that encourages that's that awesome, positive, full circle moment for you guys.
Yeah. And Laila, do you wanted to share anything in particular?
Yeah, sure. So, like I was saying earlier, I joined Avary at 7. Both of my parents were incarcerated, like Maggie and Eric. Unfortunately, I never knew my father, so I never knew much background on it, and it didn't really primarily affect me. But with my mother's incarceration, she was in and out. Since I was born, really, she was in and out, and then she was incarcerated long term when I was 3. So I went through foster care, various foster homes. And now I'm in relative foster care. So my grandmother became my permanent foster home, and she got legal custody of me or guardianship. So I was fortunate enough to have that familial presence in terms of where I was placed and where I was put and who was in charge of like making decisions for me when I was still young. But I still struggled with it, of course, not having my mom around. I mean, a lot of people do. And so it was a hard thing for me. I believe Avary was recommended to my grandmother by my social worker, I believe. And so I'm very happy that she did recommend it. But at the time, now with Avary, children can do self-referrals. At the time, I believe that wasn't a thing yet. And so I actually had to get a referral from an outside source. And so I remember my grandma racking her brain of like, who am I going to get to give this referral? Because I know that Avary will benefit her. But she was very closed off. Incarceration, my mother's incarceration was a very closed off thing for our family. We didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
So she just struggled so hard to think and find somebody that she can trust with this information,
Right.
To be able to refer me. And I'm happy that she was able to find somebody, a close family friend who's actually was my first grade elementary teacher. And she was able to get my referral, and she's still super close to us to this day. And I just really appreciate that my grandma was able to put how she felt about the situation aside for my own benefit. Because Avary has like definitely been one of the most important organizations and communities that I've had in my life. And just growing up in Avary from 7 years old as a youth to a junior counselor to leader, and now holding such, a big leadership role in Avery, and just in Avery in general, camping, retreats, I do it all. And I try to do it all. And I think that not only did it support me a lot when I was younger, but it may even now support me even more than it did when I was younger. I feel like my biggest thing that I had to worry about at that age was my parental incarceration that impacted me. But now, growing up, there's so many more aspects of life that just hit you. And not only does Avery help me with like the incarceration impacts, but just life in general, growing up, just trying to figure out how to do life. And I feel like I always have somebody to talk to. Oh, Jesus. I always have somebody to support me. Avery has not only been a support for me in my life, but like I've come out with lifelong friendships from Avery. Some of my best friends I met when I was 7, 8 years old.
Wow.
Through camp and organizations, and I'm still friends with them to this day. And just having that community to help me, because like I always say, and even to the youth, I say oftentimes the period of time when your loved one is incarcerated, it may seem hard, but oftentimes when they're released, it can be even harder.
Yeah.
That was like the biggest thing I was so oblivious to when I was younger. I thought everything would just be like smooth sailing. And it's actually been harder since my mother's release than it was when she was in prison, to like navigate. And unfortunately, we do not have a relationship anymore. And that's just the sad part about it. But I feel like I wouldn't have been able to get through that without Avery.
Yeah.
So even the support, I remember asking my grandma when my mom was released, like, will I still be able to go to Avery? And she was like, of course, like that's not going to change. And growing up, I did not do well with change. I still struggle with change to this day, in any aspect. So I feel like if Avery was something that didn't have like a lifelong commitment to their youth and their participants, if I would have had to, stop attending Avery at that prime moment in my life, I don't know where I'd be today,
Yeah.
In college, I'm studying psychology, which main passion came from working with Avery and working with the children. And just, that's where that big passion came from. So yeah, I work for my school, and just helping people is like the main purpose of my life. And I'm like super grateful that I was shown such good examples by everybody working at Avery, and even, the other youth that were just like me. They showed me such prime examples of who I want to be when I'm older and what I want to do. And I'm just overall really grateful for that.
Thank you so much for sharing, Laila. I know that's a lot. But that's awesome that, again, that you were in the program for such a long time. And it's just awesome to hear that, it left such a positive impact on you. And I actually wanted to ask, what school are you going to right now?
Oh, yeah. So I'm currently going into my 3rd year at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. So
awesome.
UNLV.
Awesome. So you're almost graduating.
Yes,
yeah,
I'm
close.
over halfway there now, and it's like super surreal and crazy to think about.
That's so cool. And actually, speaking of college, do you guys help the youth also with college applications and stuff like that?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, sometimes we've helped kids with driver's license, filling out applications.
They helped me get my license.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was a scary experience, I'm sure, sitting in the car with her. But yeah, all of these different things. And also just, working as a junior counselor, associate counselor, you can add that to your college resumes and job resumes.
Yeah.
So
super good thing to have.
Yeah, it's really helpful for when they're applying to those kind of things too. So
yeah,
any way we can help a kid through their journey, even if it is with them, moving past us, we just want them to succeed.
So say you have like youth who are interested, who are older, right? Like 16, 17, we still encourage them to come and participate, even if it's a year or so, because they can come back and work, right? And join summer camps and have a job during the summer. So we always encourage you to come and participate.
Awesome.
Yeah, as going into college, they helped me with college applications, and just in terms of like writing essays and stuff like that. They were a big help with that. And I even started a small business, and Avery helped promote my business and get it out there, and people just to raise funds. College is expensive.
Promote it on here. What's your small business?
Oh, well, it's no longer up and running. But at the moment, I had started a t-shirt business. I entered an art contest over during COVID that Avery, one of the staff members, actually recommended that I enter. I entered, I won a piece, or my piece won. And in order to fundraise and, make money from my college education, I just started to make t-shirts and tote bags.
Beautiful.
I believe I made keychains too. And I actually sold them. And Avery helped promote my business and set up a little Excel sheet for people to put in their info. So then I would immediately, get the info from there, and I can do ship outs and everything. And that was a big help, because you can only ask for so much from your own small community that you have. And so being able to branch out and reach other people out there who were willing to help me to, pursue further interests and further goals was a really nice thing for me.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So that's so cool that you guys, again, are so deeply involved in the lives of these youth, and again, helping them out in all aspects of their life.
For sure.
Because I feel like there's a lot of organizations that just solely focus on one aspect of it. But when you think about it, a youth, there's so many different things going on in our heads, right? At that age. So yeah, that's awesome again that you guys offer that support for them.
Yeah, and it's really nice that even though Laila is going to college in Nevada, she's still able to participate and grow into these different job positions. And I saw that there was a national group mentoring program, and I think you also mentioned that there's someone in Alaska going into this.
Alaska and Austria, and So
how do they apply for this?
She was actually referred by one of our counselors, which is nice too, because she just had a personal connection. But with that, we do a lot of outreach to different schools and different organizations, prisons, just many different outlets that work with youth. So then normally that's why how they would be able to get our information, and then just go on our website and fill out a referral form. So anything that is out of state, we're working hard on outreaching to different communities and trying to just give our resources, because unfortunately, especially in a lot of rural areas, there's not much resources at all. You get out of the bigger cities and there's nothing, so just giving, even if it is just an hour a week for 6 weeks, it changes some of these kids' lives. So just being able to, give that opportunity.
Yeah. And is there any way for youth to volunteer in any of these programs? Do you guys have a volunteer thing? Do you guys take volunteers at all, or really?
We do take volunteers. Normally when we take volunteers, it's somebody older.
Okay.
Because if they are of age to be in our program, we would much rather them just come and join us, because then, you can be paid too, right? Yeah. So it's why volunteer if you could be paid and just be a part of the program?
No, I'm just thinking it from the perspective of a youth who doesn't have incarcerated parents but wants to help.
So sometimes we do have volunteers, a lot of these community events that we do. We do a holiday party every year as well. So sometimes we do have volunteers for that. So we always encourage people to sign up to be a volunteer.
Okay.
And then also we have, the mentoring as well, which is part of our volunteering if people want to volunteer for that.
Gotcha.
So there's many different options, but yeah, if they have impact, we would always just encourage them to apply. But if they don't, we do have a volunteer page on our website as well to fill that out. Yeah.
Awesome.
And for the group mentoring, it's is it basically you said the fire circle? Is that something that they do for group mentoring?
Yeah. So we that's basically the moment that people are sharing and being able to hear other people's stories. And it starts really light. So the first week is a rose and thorn of your day or your week, something recent. And as the weeks progress, it becomes more and more in depth. And we start to kind of bring in the topic of incarceration. Since they all have that impact, we want to encourage them to kind of dig into that a little bit more. And some of these kids, this is the first time they've ever been able to share that and be able to talk about their experience. So it's great. It is a mentoring program because it's peer-to-peer mentoring, basically, right? You have kids of all different ages from 8 to 18, and then staff as well from, ages 18 to 50, 60. It just depends on just how how many people we have in these groups, and everyone is learning from each other. I still learn, and Maggie we learn from an 8-year-old, like, oh, I never would have never would have thought about that, so it's beautiful. It's mentoring for us as well, in a way. So
and everyone contributes in the online space. Everyone is active. You can have your camera on and maybe your mic muted, or your camera off and your mic unmuted. So there's multiple ways to say a child is like more shy, right? They can access the chat, but we're constantly encouraging them to start, their cameras off, their mics on, and things like that. But that space is really where like community is cultivated, and they just really step into that common bond and sharing their story. Like the scaffolding, right, to share their story is a really beautiful process too.
Yeah.
It's great too, because like a lot of our counselors that are in the online space will be coming to camp or retreats. So some of these kids, their first time at a summer camp or at a retreat, they may feel like, oh, I won't know anybody, but then they see their counselor, or they see somebody in their group, so automatically there's that connection. Yeah. So all the barriers are kind of broken down, and the nervousness and all of that just kind of floats away. So it's nice. Yeah.
No, it is really nice to have that, because like I said, like it's so hard as like a child to even like have a voice and say what's going on, because like, at least for me, I was like really shy when I was a child. Like I would not like think of me like in the future being here in a podcast or a radio host. So yeah, I think it's really nice to have those mentor groups, and essentially we kind of did that here too. Sure. And it's really cool to see that like just like opening up, we realized that all of us, even Laila, had an experience to share about our experience with relatives being in incarceration. So it just shows that like you're not alone.
No, for sure.
Which makes you feel really much better in a sense. And I think that helps also know that if there's anything you want to like talk about, there's always someone there. And I like how Laila has that special bond of those friends that have since she was like 7 years old. So it's really cool to have this opportunity as Project Avary.
Yeah, and I think it's good that you guys are kind of just breaking that status quo of like people just not talking about their incarcerated parents, or like youth not really feeling like, again, like you were saying, like a lot, I feel like it's very similar from what I heard from your guys' experiences, is that we never really want to bring it up in the family that we have an incarcerated parent, or it's just like literally left in the elephant in the room that's just there.
Yeah.
But this is a good way, again, of reinitiating that conversation and having it normalized and like fit into your,
Yeah. It's like breaking the stigma, right?
Breaking the stigma.
Either we're not talking about incarceration, right? Or incarceration is so prominent that it's normalized in our families, right? Like, oh yeah, everybody's been to jail, but that's not normal.
Because it's so annoying when like people just automatically assume that when you have a family or like someone in your family incarcerated, that means you're a bad person yourself, or that you did something bad, or like that. It's like that's so unfair to the person, Like,
for sure. And even too, it's the people that are incarcerated. Like we've done walks into San Quentin, and on the yard with these men in there. And like just talking with some of these guys, like some of them just had a split decision that just changed their entire life, and we're all human, right? We make mistakes. So I never, obviously there's some people that just, they have their things going on, but majority of people, man, it's a split decision. We all get angry. We all have emotion, and a lot of us act out of emotion. And unfortunately it changes a lot of people's lives, so. Yeah, I don't think there's not necessarily many bad people. It's just people make, bad mistakes, and
circumstances
decisions.
Surrounding,
For sure.
And since the show is wrapping up, thank you for sharing. I wanted to ask you three, and maybe we can start with Laila. What is the biggest piece of advice you can give to youth who have parents in the system right now? Like I know Project Avary's like an option,
Join us.
But also like I guess in terms of like since you're studying psychology, Laila, I guess just advice or pointers for youth in that situation.
Yeah, of course. I think the biggest thing for me, just speaking off of personal experience, going through everything that I've gone through, I think the biggest thing for me was ask questions. Ask, of course, when you're ready. And my biggest advice for maybe parents that are listening or family members who are listening who may, have been incarcerated or are incarcerated that have like a child or a youth in their life that may have questions down the line. Part of my advice is if they're asking, they're ready. One of my biggest things was, when I was younger and I was asking questions and I wasn't getting answers, it was frustrating. And I really got resorted to Google for most of my answers. And I feel like that's not the way you want your child or your youth in your life to find out. So if they're asking questions, that means they're ready. And that for other, youth that may be dealing with familial or parental incarceration, just, be optimistic, be open, be understanding. Because again, one of the biggest things with me was the hardest process was when they were released. Yeah. So be open, be understanding, be patient. Sometimes life stops for a person when they're incarcerated, and maturing stops, development stops. They have to adjust to, the everyday reality of what life is. And so be understanding, be patient, be kind, but also know your limits. Know when enough is enough. Know when you no longer need to be understanding or patient. Know yourself, listen to yourself, and really just, make strong gut decisions. I know sometimes it's easy to be swayed one way, or to listen to other people's advice, but really go with your gut, go with what you feel. When you think you've had enough, understand that and vocalize that. Yeah. That was my biggest thing, vocalizing when I've had enough, and vocalizing that I was at a point where certain things couldn't continue. And unfortunately, that is why I'm no longer in contact with my incarcerated loved one. But I had to stand back and say, I'm at a point where I'm grown. I am of older age now. I'm not that child that I once was. Yeah. So you just understand yourself and listen to yourself, and you will always give yourself the best advice. That is my advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Eric?
I think I completely agree with what Laila said too, but I think the biggest thing is forgiveness, and people take forgiveness as, oh, I'm forgiving them and it's for them. I think forgiveness is for yourself. Forgive them for leaving. Forgive yourself for, holding on to all of that for so long too. I think just forgive, and it's not, like I said, it's not for them, it's for you, because holding on to those things can really just damage you and change you in so many ways. So yeah, forgive and let go. I think that's probably my best advice.
Yeah, I echo both Laila and Eric as well. And I would say, you're worthy. You're worthy of love. You're worthy of joy. You're worthy of laughter. You're worthy of play. You're worthy to have your voice be heard. And you're worthy of a community that's going to hold you and support you and love you. And wherever you find that, that's where you belong. Wherever you feel like at home, that's where you belong. Yeah. And so that's my biggest advice for youth is like, find your home, and your home is always within you. It's always inside you, not on you, not outside of you. But find your community and people who celebrate you, and you'll thrive.
Wow. Thank you so much for these advice. Since we're about to finish, is there any last words you guys want to say?
It doesn't have to, could be
thank you.
Anything.
No, yeah, I really do appreciate you guys for having us on here. And everybody listening, thank you guys for listening. And we hope to see everybody at Avary Day, April 22nd.
Yeah. That's great. And thank you for joining us, Laila, all the way from Nevada.
Of course, so happy y'all were able to open it up to me, even if it is through Zoom. So thank you.
Yeah, no, we appreciate your time, and we appreciate everyone's time for making the commitment to come here.
Yeah. I wanted to say thank you so much for just telling your stories. And it was really nice to have this bond with you guys, even through live, which is nerve-wracking. But it's really nice to have this shared moment with you guys. And we hope to see you on Avary Day.
We'll be there. I'll be in the mic. Eric will be doing some fun activities. It'll be great.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right. Thank you, guys.